one of the challenges, you didn't know what you were going to sell. And that's why you were making things that you didn't have a plan for, because you weren't sure what you were going to sell. And so they built something just to keep the factory going. And that's a pitfall that a lot of companies run into. And that's the key to S&OP, is that you're identifying exactly what it is that you want to build, rather than building something with the hopes that somebody comes along and wants to buy it.
So how do you do that? How do you figure out what you're going to sell?
Yeah, I should argue that baby products, this is a baby products business, and baby products are super flat. There's a year-end reset at all of the major retailers, but aside from that, babies are born at a pretty consistent rate in the United States. It's a very slow changing up and down. It doesn't peak in March or peak in February because more babies are born. That's just not how it works. So we had that luxury where our production could be flat during the year. And some industries, if you're making water balloons, we don't sell very many of those in February. So you have to adjust for that. Couple different things. I think one, first and foremost, is you have to have a really good understanding of the market, and you have to have a very good, as an operations person, have a great relationship with your sales team. They are the most important piece because they are the boots on the ground. They see everything that's happening in the market, or hopefully they're seeing everything that's happening in the market, and they're going to drive a lot of the information that's coming in. So you have historical data that you can use as a baseline, but then you need to tweak it, and it's up to the sales team to help you tweak that. Two things that are important here. One, something that we did is we tied their compensation to their accuracy of their forecast. So the better they did forecasting, the more money they got. And that's a huge incentive. And not every business is going to be able to do that. That's fine. That was a unique thing for us. We were a newly formed entity, so we could do something like that. The other thing I think, though, is in the relationship is if your sales team trusts that you can deliver what they forecast, then they're going to want to forecast what they're going to want to sell. If they don't forecast, let's look at the other way. If they don't forecast and you're building a desk that you have no home for, that takes away from your ability to supply what they're looking for. And so helping your sales team understand, hey, look, we're in this together. I want to build what you're going to sell. I don't have any interest in building anything else at all. So if I can come in and say, or if the sales team can come in and say, I'm going to sell 2,000 of these next month. Okay, I'm going to make 2,000 of them. You better sell them. And they can trust that product is going to be ready for them when they need it. So it's a two-way street, right? So we're providing them certainty that they are going to have supply that they need to satisfy their customers.
Circling back, right, on the lean process, because I think that was a major pitfall for us, because sometimes there was a 20-step, 30, 40-step finishing process that just takes forever, but takes away from trying to mass manufacture a custom high-end product. I always felt was just not working, right? And I think the true high-end manufactured pieces that are out there, they have to be lean, they have to be agile, right? They have to be able to react quickly to demand and not say, okay, because we aren't set up that way, we have to bring everything to a semi-finished state, hoping we got the numbers right, and then go from there. So how important is lean, and where would you start on that lean journey?
Lean is absolutely critical, and really just understanding your processes and understanding where things are happening. I think that's the baseline, obviously. Somebody explained lean to me once. They said, look, lean is nothing more than common sense. And I couldn't agree more. If you really take it and boil it down to this, it's common sense. One of the principles of lean that I think resonates the most with me is the idea of building waste. So if you build something into a product that doesn't have value to the customer, that's waste. If you build something extra that's going to sit on the shelf, every moment it sits on the shelf, that's waste. Every time you move a product physically from one place to another, that's waste. So you want to minimize all of those pieces of waste. You want to keep product in its most infant state as long as you possibly can, because as soon as you customize it, as soon as if it's a pacifier, for example, as soon as you put it in a package, that's all it can ever be. As soon as you build the table, you have a couple different finishes, but you can't build a chair out of that wood anymore. That's done. And you can't change the dimensions, or I guess you could maybe shrink it down. I don't know a whole lot about furniture manufacturing and tables, but maybe you can slice a part off and put the legs in a different spot. But for the most part, you're going to add a lot more extra work, right, in that process. It's really looking at what you're doing. And for us, it was focusing on keeping things in their most infant state. And so you have to look at this in scope of what am I doing? And is the investment in the flexibility going to pay off in the end? So it's really approaching it. That cell idea is of being flexible and being able to grab the parts you need at arm's length when you need them is critical. Another part of lean, obviously, is identifying or helping create this culture of lean. So I think a lot of companies, they run the risk of management telling their workers what to do. And I almost take the opposite approach, where I know that the person that does this 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is a million times better at doing this than I am. They know this process just hands down. And one of my secrets is I'll go sit with the operator, just me. I'll go sit. I won't have a big event or anything. I'll go and sit, and we do those, but I'll sit with the operator and work with them and say, okay, let me watch what you're doing. Let me try to do what you're doing. And then I ask them, what is it that we can do that makes this easier for you? And when you ask them, how can we improve the efficiency? People they balk at that. They don't understand what you're asking a lot of times. And if they do, it makes them feel uncomfortable. But everybody knows how to make their job easier. Everybody knows that. And often when you make their job easier, you make it more efficient, because they're saying, every time I get this part, I've got to look at it to make sure that the part it got cut maybe. And that's an issue that's coming down the pipeline from them. And so we're not doing something right in the process upstream. So asking them and understanding what their pain points are will help you introduce lean to these folks.
I think, right, having that buy-in where you can have the processes and you can have the systems and the technology, but if you don't have the culture buy-in, in the end, you're not going to get anything out of it. So where do you start with the process? And I think you answered it. It's sitting down with the operators and figuring out, okay, getting the buy-in and figuring out where do we have the bottlenecks, where can we improve the process, where can we make things easier for them, and then go from there.
You're absolutely right. I think that there is an introduction that needs to be had. I think you can't just show up and say, so what's going on, to create that mindset. But there's a value in sitting everybody down and say, hey, look, we want to make things more efficient. Why do we want to make things more efficient? And it's a good idea, in my opinion, to say, we don't want to fire people. That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to increase output so we make more money so everybody can get paid more. We're looking to improve the company, make it stronger so everybody's better off. We want to make your jobs easier. We want to avoid all the problems. We want to take all those issues, the irritating things.
Change always allows some form of resistance, right? Not with everyone, but there's always people that just on principle kind of resist change. How do you deal with that?
It's involving them and getting them to be part of the change. Identifying, and one of the reasons they don't like change is that they're going to make them uncomfortable. They're going to have to do something new, and they always like doing it this way. But when you come to them and ask them, how do we make it better? How do we make it easier? They want to do it that way. They're going to want to make it easier for them. So that's one kind of mental technique that I use to facilitate that. And having them buy into the idea, the bigger idea, why are we doing this? Why are we making this better? I had somebody, I worked in a factory, and it was kind of a turnaround situation where they wanted to grow a lot, and they just needed someone to come in and help them put in lean and remove bottlenecks like we talked about. And the scheduler came to one day, and she says, and she was a pretty honest, open person, but she said, you're just doing this to make yourself look good. I said, no, that's not why I'm doing this. I want us to be able to work more efficiently. And if we can work more efficiently, we can hire more people. If we can have, so it's less stress, because she was doing 3 jobs and I was doing 4, and everybody was wearing all these multiple hats. I said, as we grow, we can hire other people. But we need to show a baseline of revenue to be able to get to that point. And once I explained it that way, she said, oh, okay, I understand now. And she bought in. But up to that point, she hadn't bought it. So and every person's going to be a little bit different. They're going to understand it differently. And maybe some people just are going to resist all the way through.